Hi friends, we're going to learn all about letter writing. In your 3-ring binder you received a note card with an envelope, and it's in the 3-ring binder that is your building writing. It's in the very front pouch. Okay, so I'm going to refer back to this in just a minute. When we write letters, we have to decide a purpose of a letter. There are 6 different purposes of a letter. One is to instruct. This would be like instructing on how to make a certain recipe or giving some type of instructions. Persuade. Persuade would be writing a letter about persuading somebody, a family member, to buy you a new pet. That's persuade. Recount, that's kind of like remember. Remembering an event that happened in the past, maybe a funny story or something silly that happened. Entertain, this is where you could tell jokes, you could tell an embarrassing moment, something that's funny and entertaining. Purpose of a letter could be to describe, and you're trying maybe to describe your most favorite vacation site, or describe your best teacher of the year. Or there's a last one is called explain, and this is where you would explain something that you want to tell the person you're sending the letter to. So I'm going to pick explain for this lesson. Know though that there is many different things that I'm going to include in a PDF or a Word document that goes through all these different kinds of things to give you ideas. Because if you decide, if you're writing a letter and you can't think of what to do, you could go to the entertaining section and read all about it and get some good ideas. Okay, so look for that with this video. All right, to explain something, it means to explain how or why, to explain why you are thankful, to explain your feelings. Here's some examples. Explain something new you learned. Explain why you liked 3rd grade so much. Explain what a top sport is. So these are types of things you can write about in explaining. The purpose is to explain in your letter. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain how or why we have a 3rd grade letter writing assignment. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to write to an elderly person in the assisted living at Stony Brook's Suites. And this is, if you recognize it, is our tabletop strategy. You can actually use the tabletop strategy to write a letter. Okay, so the topic is, I'm going to be explaining the purpose of this letter. Okay, so we have to start with a tabletop. That's our main idea. So we say, Dear Stony Brook residents. There's always a comma after dear and the person's name. Okay, writing a letter to an elderly person is important during social distancing times. Okay, so that's my main idea. That's my introduction. Okay, all right, my first supporting detail, and remember, transition words are very important. So here's a transition word. First, my 3rd grade students are learning how to write letters. So we will write letters to grandparents or residents. Okay. Here's another transition word. Second, I hope to find you well and happy. I hope this letter brings a little happiness to your life. Okay, let's go right back. So this is talking about why, or explaining why we're writing the letters to an elderly person. So that supports my main idea. This is asking how the elderly person is, and that is part of writing a letter to an elderly person, and the purpose to bring them happiness. Third, transition word. How do you, you can always ask a question inside of a letter. That's actually quite important, so they can answer back. How do you spend your day? Besides teaching lessons online, grading and checking up on students, I am teaching my own children. Okay, and then you're in your conclusion. Writing this letter helps me practice my letter writing skills, and it makes me happy to communicate with you. Sincerely, Mrs. Langlet. Okay, then inside of your letter, that is where you would write it. Okay, so this first part is called a heading. This is a heading, and it includes who the letter is from, the date. This is very important to put the date, who the letter is to, and then you say, Dear Stony Brook's resident, comma. Now notice I indented right here. There's an indent because that's the start of our paragraph. And then I put the sentences that are on my tabletop strategy. I put them all inside my letter, and it flows very nicely. Writing a letter to an elderly person is important during this social distancing time. First, my third grade students are learning how to write letters, so we will write letters to grandparents or residents. Second, I hope to find you well and happy. I hope this letter brings a little happiness in your life. Third, how do you spend your day? Besides teaching lessons online, grading and checking up on students, I am teaching my own children. Writing this letter helps me practice my letter writing skills, and it makes me happy to communicate with you. Sincerely, Mrs. Langlet. Okay? Then we refold this and stick it inside the envelope, just like this. Okay? And then we can tape it shut. And this is important. Okay, the stamp goes on this side, and you're going to say to, and who it's to, the address is right here. So you put Stony Brook Suite Assisted Living, resident Peggy, and then the next line down is the address. So it's 1906, this is the street name, 12th Street South. The next line down is Brookings, South Dakota, 5, and then the next line down is 57006. Okay, it's very important you put spaces in between. If I didn't have a space right here, it would look like it's 190612, and that would be incorrect, and it wouldn't get to them. Okay, and then you want to put from and who it's from. You want your name, your house number, your street number, the city, South Dakota, and the zip code. Okay, if you have any questions, let me know, and I am going to provide you with a letter writing document to help you. Okay, kiss your brains, friends. Thanks for doing this. You're making a lot of people happy.